What's going on, guys? I just want to talk about um, kind of a, not a new phenomenon, but something that's, I feel like it's getting worse and worse in time as time goes on. And it's, some people refer to it as male loneliness. I don't really like that term. I feel like it's more so worldwide. It's not gender specific. It's everybody for the most part. I'm not even going to say for the most part, but increasingly, there's a lot more people in the world who feel, no matter how much effort they put in or how many people they go see or how often they're out of the house, they're feeling lonely. And I kind of just want to, I guess, saying I guess a lot. I want to give my insight in what I want to say found. It's not necessarily found, more so gathered from, seeing what other people talk about and reading Reddit, of course, Reddit forums, Instagram, social media, all types of stuff. So let's get straight to it. I think for the main point, I believe is the most impactful factor. I guess is the best way to put it is the lack of. I don't want to say the lack of, but the difficulty of finding and creating, what most would call like meaningful bonds and relationships. Like I said, it's not impossible, but it's increasingly difficult, and there's a lot of factors that go into that. Um, the pandemic, yes, 2026, but that wasn't. It's crazy to think about. It wasn't that long ago when we were all, on laptops, and my first year of college was during COVID, where we couldn't really have classes in person. Campuses were empty. It was an interesting time. So classes were on Zoom, meetings were on Zoom. People were getting laid off. People were at home all day, every day. Social media skyrocketed. I was looking at a stat earlier. It was like between like the beginning of 2020. I'll probably try to find it, or maybe not. Oh no, my computer camera turned off. Um, Between like 2020, 2021, there's I believe it said it was like upwards of over 1 billion people joined social media, something like that. I think I could be quoting that wrong, but anyways, and there's a lot of all those factors kind of I can't think of the word, but um the problem becomes exponential, when you think of all that stuff. You got people isolated for a very long period of time, and then things open up, and you're still used to your social media circles, you're still used to having Zoom calls, not having to go out of the house, and it has very lasting impact. It even changes like how you perceive others. Um, I mean, everybody, you've been on Instagram, you've seen comments, and that person is just, a bunch of words, a username, a face on a screen. Compared to going out, maybe go to book club, something like that. You see somebody in person. Even scientifically, it's down to the chemistry of our brain and how our brain works. It is a completely different. It's a completely different amount of activity in your brain, stimulation of the brain that happens when you see somebody over a screen versus in person. And the boom of social media, isolation, all that stuff has made it. A screen is more accessible, of course. Everybody has a phone on them all the time. They're either on it, thinking about checking it, scrolling when they wake up. Even myself, like I took like about a year long break from social media. I just re-downloaded it not too long ago, but it's like your brain is waiting for that hit of dopamine. Like, oh, that next like or next comment, or oh, did they respond to my DM? Or did they follow me back? All these things I fall victim to as well. And all of that just extrapolates the problem more and more. I don't know if that was the right word, but I'm gonna go with it. Um, and it makes it harder to find those genuine connections when you have your phone in your pocket all the time. You know, it's easier to be social on the internet and use that as your third space. Before I say before, there's still third spaces out there, but they're not as appealing to everybody. Now, you can just hop on Reddit, hop on a forum and talk to, like-minded individuals about a topic you want to discuss, or hop into a Discord call with strangers that you know but don't know personally, and it's a lot less risky, you know. And that can really, especially as a younger guy, because that's all I can speak of is being a younger guy. It's so easy to just hop on your phone, hop in the group chat, send a reel, send a post. Look at this shit. Look at this stupid this car crash. This guy died in this car crash. You know, it's so much easier than, hey, let's all get together. You know, schedule around our work schedules and our responsibilities, and go out until 2 in the morning, and then regret it the next day. So we don't want to do it the next week, and then we don't want to embarrass ourselves. Stop. We don't want to embarrass ourselves, so we're not going to go up to people and talk to them, and and we don't want to embarrass ourselves because our social media presence we feel is so important, and our, we have this image of ourselves that social media reinforced. You can see how it can just be, constant stream of negativity, and it just builds on itself over and over and over. So I think all that said, I feel like a big stressor, kind of pushing loneliness on a lot of people. And I don't want to demonize social media, because I mean, I'm on it. It's not. It has its drawbacks, but it has its perks as well. You know, Without it, there'd be a lot of people who have zero interaction in the world after during COVID. Um, with no YouTube, no Instagram, no any of that. It's just you, maybe your dog, family, neighbors, if you even talk to them. But I can say that before social media, there was a time where you had that third space. And I can't speak from personal experience, but speaking from, talking to family, older family, and aunts, uncles, dad, mom, whatever, they had that third space, whether it was church or whether it was the bar, the club, which still exists, of course, still exists, but it's not as enticing. Um, they were going out on, I don't know, nighttime excursions, and just doing random anything with people, and not just people they know, but strangers, building connections. They didn't have the option of, let me hop on Instagram and see how many likes I got, or let me go follow this person who lives across the country and start a conversation with them, because I can do that from the comfort of my home. They didn't have that. They had to go out if they wanted to be. It was either go out, find people, or sit in your room all day and do nothing. I know what I would have chose, of course. Most people would have chose. 95, 90, 85%, 80% of people would have chose. So, all that to say, the internet is dooming us. No, I'm kidding. Um, no, I do feel like the root cause of, you know, the more widespread loneliness that is being experienced is the internet, video games, social media. But it's not in the sense that connection is meaningful connections are harder. I feel like I can say that for a fact. And they're harder because things are a lot more superficial. Um, you don't even ask for phone numbers anymore. You ask for Instagram. You ask for, you know, used to be Snapchat when I was in high school, things like that. Not that I had any play. I wasn't asking anybody anything in high school, but regardless, you know, you don't ask, and a lot of it, safety, things like that, of course, but most of it is just no one wants to, from my experience, okay, as I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by a lack of storage. No one, no one wants to, you know, I guess a good way, expose themselves and feel like vulnerable with people that they don't know. But that's, yeah, you don't have to overshare. You don't have to let people in your life immediately. But that's how you, I feel like that's how you create those meaningful relationships that people crave, But how can you crave something you're not willing to give? Does that make sense? I got to think on that, because that might be a little crazy to say. I'm going to stick with it for now, though. But anyways, um, yeah, no, I don't think that that's not valid. But the point I'm trying to get to is that, you want this strong, meaningful connection, but you don't want to allow yourself to be vulnerable as well. And it creates, one-sided narratives or one-sided relationships. And you're like, oh, well, damn, I thought we were getting somewhere. And no, you're not. because you're not trying to also be that person for them. So, long story short, and I'm not gonna act like I have the answers, but I can say that it would help to be willing to be vulnerable and open with people, and um, express yourself. Stop being scared to be your own person, and stop being scared to put yourself out there, and whatever that looks like to you. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Like, you don't have to be this, you know, carbon copy, tough guy, like cool guy or hot woman or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Like, just be genuinely who you are, and the right people will attract themselves to you, and allow them to be attracted to you, and not even like romantically, just like friendships. Allow them to gravitate towards you, and don't push people to the side because they're strangers, or you might you don't know who somebody is until you get to know them. So just be open minded about that. Um, yeah, that's all I got really. But you know, all that to say, just be more open minded about meeting people, and don't rely on only social media for all your interactions, because it's not as fulfilling. All right, y'all have a good one. Bye bye.